Welcome to Breakthrough, the podcast looking to help change the music industry and support the grassroots, one episode at a time. Back for a brand new episode of Breakthrough. George Bone is our next guest on the podcast today. An incredibly powerful theatrical singer-songwriter, but also incredible pianist as well, which is at the core of his music. He started his journey in the southeast of the UK and has had a melting pot of the northeast music scene as well when he went to study at university, but also has passions for the study of video game music and how that's informed his artistry and his music today. It's a fascinating conversation. He's an artist that is so sure of himself and the direction that he wants to go, but also very excited to be working with the people he is in 2026 and onto brand new records. It was a really fascinating conversation, so let's get into it. Here he is making himself comfy in the Breakthrough studio. It's George Bone. Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
How are you?
Thank you so much. I saw the first edition of this when it was coming out last year.
Oh, and was, are you about to flatter me?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
go for it. I was absolutely overtaken by how many incredible Essex talents, A, there are, and B, who I seem to know, which is great. And I messaged them all individually to be like, whoa, this is great. Who did you get to do this? And me and my manager put it on a little mood board to be like, genuinely, deadly serious. We put a pin in it and we were like, this is one thing that we wanted to do. So without a lick of irony, a pleasure to be here.
Well, I'm taking that to the hills and then some. It's very kind of you to say, George. Thank you so much for coming down here to Chinnery's, which has become our home for Breakthrough, and we'll talk about grassroots venues and the part they've had to play, but that's one of the big core things of our podcast. But of course, getting to know artists of all different kinds of styles and genres, and maybe different chapters or journeys, or what people perceive as all of that, which has always been fascinating to chat about with people we've had on. What do you feel like, though, which we always start with the podcast, what do you feel like has been a real key, like a feeling of a breakthrough moment recently in the way you're making music, or personally, or maybe how they've all overlapped and intertwined for you?
I think a big breakthrough moment was the entirety of last year. And I know this is going to sound like a very cop-out thing because I'm naming 365 and a quarter days. I said in 2025 that it was going to be a year where I expanded the amount of people that I wanted to work with, because I wanted to find out who properly George Bone was and the sounds that I wanted to lead my project going with in the future. And I'm so glad that I was able to expand and meet so many new people in London, Essex, around the country, who not only got to listen to the new stuff, got to emotionally connect with it, but also wanted to be a part of the journey as well. And it was a pleasure finding out that about people and what they wanted to hear. But more importantly, it then informed how I wrote, how I produced. And it got to a point where I now know the sort of core team that I want to work with, not only just for this year coming and all of the releases coming, but for the future as well, for the next projects after that and whatever songs come on. So I'm really happy that I was able to focus that this year, in 2025 rather. At the same time, working with Yamaha was pretty cool and it helped pay some bills.
Yes, because as we'll come on to find out, you are quite the pianist and you love that instrument. And then some, I think it's fair to say. And of course, has been at the core of a lot of your songs, and why wouldn't it be? Because you've fallen in love with it. But I mentioned in the intro to this episode, you've had an incredible melting pot of music scenes. I'm sure you've also had an incredible melting pot of your upbringing around in Essex and the southeast. But you've also spent some time up in the northeast.
Yes.
So you've had completely binary sort of oppositions in those kind of things and styles and maybe culture and attitudes towards things. How has that made you into the artist that you are now?
I think a lot of the inspiration that artists get particularly comes from where they are geographically, but also where they are mentally, but I'll start with geographically just because it's so relevant. I was born in Norfolk, raised in Essex, but at the same time I grew up on a lot of the music that my dad was playing on his iPod Nano on long journeys on the car. So it was a load of country music.
The iPod Nano.
Oh,
I miss it.
I miss it too. I saw an advert on the Tube where it was just the iPod Nano as a refresh item, and I'm like, oh God, I need one. But so I listened to a lot of country music growing up, and then a lot of stadium country music coming out in the early 2010s. So Dan and Shay, Stapleton Stapleton, Darius Rucker, by extension Hootie and the Blowfish. And so that was a lot of my songwriting up until when I went to uni up in Durham, as you mentioned. And it was a very vibrant, like, classical jazz scene. Tom Mish's Geography had just come out then. So a lot of my storytelling elements that I had learned and taken from country musicians that I grew up with and were actively trying to emulate and do in a George Bone way were then sort of put with lovely little chord sequences inspired by the artists that were coming out and inspired by jazz musicians who I knew. And then in 2020, COVID stopped my studies quite dramatically, and I had to move down to Essex quite quickly. And so a lot of bedroom lo-fi pop style producers were coming out. People like Bruno Major, Eloise, early Lizzie McAlpine stuff before 5 Seconds Flat. They had such a DIY aesthetic, and I wanted to merge all of those, like you say, into that melting pot of telling stories, but in a way that's audibly clicked in a way that's a bit more interesting than 1, 5, 6, 4 chords. And I try and make sure that I have that balance in having a positive storytelling element in any song that I put out, including any releases to come, but also making sure that it's grounded in an interesting element to make sure that audibly it's a nice thing for people to listen to ultimately, and not what people are expecting from a pop radio station or something like that.
I feel like lots of people that probably follow you and have found you and discovered you. The thing that always resonates with me, listening to your music in the last couple of years, and I know it's an exciting time in 2026 as well, which I'm sure we'll mention, but you've kind of got the elements of stripping things back on All Your Love, and then you've got a very progressive Go On Without Me. Kind of like the sort of almost the teasing of like people listening to that, kind of just like, okay, when's the big chorus? And you're not giving it to them, and you're making them wait to the end of the song, and just not being afraid to like have completely different song structures every single record. And does that keep it fun and interesting for you?
I kind of wanted it to be that way as well, because I take inspiration from people like Lizzo, who had like 8 EPs of different music before she ended up settling on what Lizzo was. Like, Lizzo started as a concert flautist and then eventually came into this big, massive megastar that we know her to be. But that's only because she tried and tested her music. She tried and tested her style to doing what A, she wanted, and B, what was commercially valuable to her. And I feel like I've done that over the last 3 years or so. I've gone from like very soul inspired, like neo soul R&B style, to more like country inspired folk music in like 1-2 Summer Fling, to very commercial Christmas music in All My Love as well. There is a story behind that song, and it's kind of terrifying because it was supposed to be an advert for a Christmas movie. It was supposed to be the song for a Christmas advert last year, but the deal fell through. But I wanted to make sure that people were getting a song out, especially at Christmas time as well. And then going back to more stripped back piano based stuff like Go On Without Me. So just trying to have as much variety as possible, so that when somebody hears a George Bone track, they're not hearing the same thing, which is good for variety, but also B, anything that they do listen to and stick with acutely, then that gives me the attention to be like, hey, I'm listening to what people like. Maybe I should do that more.
Well, no, it's a typical, I think it's a typical creative thing, not just an artist thing, but it's a typical thing of then being so, I guess, caught up in your own world, which musicians, it's a very individual journey, isn't it, going through that, and thinking, well, some people might be looking at this or hearing this, and like they might be loving it, and they might be loving the variety. And then other people, you can't please everyone, obviously, but other people might be wanting like the same, Go On Without Me all the time. But then, of course, then that wouldn't be very...
It's difficult because I myself am a people pleaser. So like there's also the thing of like, if I have as wide a musical gamut as possible, then I guess in some way that helps please everyone, because then everyone can have a bit of the George Bone pie.
Is it chicken and leek? Is it
it's a chicken and mushroom.
Chicken and mushroom. Mushrooms should not belong.
Whoa, okay. Well, bye.
Awkward moment.
No, I used to work in a fish and chip shop when I was younger. Oh, cool. And so seeing the variety of people's orders and the variety of things was almost like a weird thing to be like, okay, people like so many different things. And again, segue back to music. That's also then very reflective to be like, okay, people may not like this song, but they like this song. I've had people listen to my upcoming EP and had entirely different perspectives of what they like from the EP. They really like one song, but really don't like this one. Like the least commercial song is getting like the most preview streams from people who I know can trust and are listening to it at the moment, which means like the really sad non-commercial stuff seems to be doing really well, which is concerning. Are they okay? But like the stuff that like I have as like,
good for you.
Yeah, exactly. Like I've had people say they like bits of it, they like all of it, they like certain bits of it, and they like none of it. And all of those views are absolutely fine. Yeah. It's just the people you decide to take on the train with you for the journey.
So we mentioned about your sort of the melting pots of being in the northeast and the southeast and those kind of things.
Yes.
But I've also seen in your time when you went up to study in the northeast, I don't think you were 100% set on becoming the artist that you are, and you were very interested in a word that I did not know until about 2 days ago.
Fair enough.
Called ludomusicology.
Yes.
Have I said that right?
Yep, ludomusicology. It is.
What is that?
It is the study of video game music. So essentially, Durham is a very classical oriented university, very study based, wants to be Oxbridge so badly. And basically, I fell in love more with analysing music than I did with actually performing it. In fact, in my second year of uni, one of my favourite games of all time is the Civilization franchise. And through my university, I was able to get an interview with the guy who composed the Civ 6 soundtrack.
I mean, that's bucket list
Which was
stuff, right?
genuinely so fun. Like, it was genuinely like, oh my God, Jeff Knorr wants to talk to me. Oh my God. But like, it really inspired me to look at the music we consume on a daily basis, sometimes without knowing, in a more critical lens, because musicology as a subject is only 40 years old. People only started really analysing music of scores in the late 80s, and like feminist viewings of music only started in the 90s or so. So it's only 40 years old as a discography and as a study form. And so anyone who expands themselves into ludomusicology is like, hey, we play video games all the time. Video game consumption is one of the biggest industries in the world.
I mean, if you think of some of the like soundtracks.
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm a big fan of like Sonic the Hedgehog. It's one of the main reasons why I went into music in the first place, because I listened to the Sonic Heroes soundtrack so much when I was younger. And like the people who wrote the music for fucking Sonic, sorry, do we swear?
Yeah, you can do what you want.
Thank you very much for the for the support structure. The people who did the music for Sonic, like Tamura Atani, Jun Sonoe, and others who I can't remember off the top of my head. They're big inspirations for me, and they're some of the people like, okay, I'm hearing all of these lovely sounds and all of these things that I'm actively engaging with as a consumer and as a player. I want to be in a world where I'm experiencing more of this. And when I got to study that at uni, I was like, wow, this opens up such a big lens of analysis, and then such a big lens of consuming music yourself, because it's an entirely different world than the pop standpoints. And if you can take any lessons from one potential avenue and then put it in another, then you're ultimately a better musician for it, because you're taking all those inspirations and going on like a little musical grand tour, really.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening to my TED Talk.
No. Sorry. And we're done. No.
We're done.
But what I found fascinating about when you were talking about that then was that, does that then mean you're quite scientific with the music you make now, or are they separate things?
So I'm trying to keep them separate at the moment. I am ADHD autistic coded, absolutely. And so there's a level of granularism when it comes down to doing what I'm doing at the moment. I've got a spreadsheet of all of the contacts that I need to get for all of my singles and EP coming out.
I mean, it's organised.
Yeah, nobody can say I'm not organised. No. Like, I get granular as fuck. But I always want to make sure that the music speaks from the heart, and any organisation that I do is supported by my knowledge and my ability to work around the unknown, because the music industry is such an unknown place to begin with. There's no start or stop point. There just is.
Well, on that, how did you develop in that point? How did you find when you feel like you dived into that world for the first time?
Yeah, when I jumped into the music industry, it was incredibly scary because, again, like I said, there's no gamut of like when, like when things start and when things end. You just have to find your own way. It's not like a structured career where you go from a junior to a senior and then you're suddenly the manager of this big corporation unless you decide to go into that side of the music industry. As an artist, you just have to exist and let the stories that you speak for themselves. And that is terrifying, because then you've got to put yourself out there on an emotional level. You've got to put yourself out there on a level of vulnerability, which at the start I was not that strong in having, and especially releasing stuff after COVID, after my master's, in an economy like this, it felt so scary to do something which is not inherently like a direct money-making business. But ultimately, you're not really making the music for yourself or to make money. Gigs are fine, and they pay really well, and I'm so happy I get to play, but it's the people that you play for. I remember a story when I released Valencia, and he has told me this story, and I will get permission from him to broadcast this afterwards. So if you're hearing this he's given permission. My friend Freddie, his mum was battling with an illness just after Valencia got released, and she passed away in December 2023. And while we were having like drinks together in a pub to celebrate, and also just ask whether he was okay, do everything, show him a support network, he pulled me aside and was like, "I'm so glad that my mum got to see you releasing music before she passed." And God, that's a gut punch, but also it just makes you realize that you're not really doing it for yourself to make money. You're doing it so other people can feel. You're doing it so other people can attach yourselves to stories, how well written you perceive them to be, because someone is going to relate to them somehow. And it's not, if you're making it a money-making business, then that's a disappointing outlook to look for it when your client is people's heartstrings and not their purse.
This is true, and I think a lot of people would like that to be the case the whole time. Like, you've got to make ends meet, but that's where the sweet spot is for it, isn't anyone making music. And yes, you can get caught up in the stuff that goes around it sometimes, and I guess you could call it playing the game or utilising certain parts. But yeah, I guess when you get a story like that, it just really all brings it back home. And I guess you were never prepared to hear
Oh no, not
like
at all. I was 5 pints down and was about to cry. It's when you hear stuff like that and how people have emotionally connected with the stories that you tell on a very personal level, but somehow relate to people outside of your own personal circle. That's when you know you're at least doing something right, and really keeps me going through quite difficult times, as any artist you talk to or have will attest to that as well.
The music you make speaks to this sort of renaissance and revival in like neo jazz and neo soul, which cultivates these feelings and emotions for people, and there's no shortage of that at the moment, including you, I think, and almost a bit of theatre as well, to like how you perform, but also you don't sort of hide that in your songs. It fully comes across. What place does that come from in your life?
I mean, it comes from a place of a lot of self-discovery. It's needed to come from a place of not knowing that if I'm going to do this, I need to do it all and fully embrace the person that I am along with my music, and knowing where I both sit and where the music sits, which is why last year was so important in finding myself in the sound of so many different sounds screaming at me to be inspired by different things. But like, as you've probably heard from this podcast, I do give off big theatre kid energy. And so if I can take that energy into interactions like we're having right now, into interactions on stage, if I can make people chuckle by how big I am, and then tell them a story that breaks their heart as well, then that's a double-edged sword, but also at the same time it then gives off some good results as well, which is nice. My big personality has been to my betterment and to my worsehood, but I know that the people who don't like it, I know that I'm not going to work with or haven't worked with. So I'm very happy that people who believe in my vision as an artist, people who believe in what I'm singing about, in what I'm telling stories about with the piano, they're the people who want to be there for the long run, and I'm very happy to have them along.
Yeah. Let's bring up the piano, as you've just
absolutely
mentioned it.
Segue
indeed. You feel like, from what I see, so at home with that, and has that that been like you've been playing since you were really young, like we've gone to grade 8 and we've just like taken it to another place, or has that been something that you found more recently?
It's something that I learned quite practically when I was in year 9 and year 10. So I was singing from the age of 5 in choirs for a decade, was in the school choir as well. Like I was a falsetto, then like an alto, then a tenor, and then baritone and bass where needed. So I've done the entire gamut where my voice is broken.
Was you singing like Bar Barbara and like
yes, absolutely.
Do Re Mi and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, because my voice hadn't broken by then. But by the time that I was like 14, 15, my voice had sat where it is at the moment. I knew the range that I was working with and didn't want to rely on backing tracks to get myself through it. And I knew that the only way I was going to emancipate myself from backing tracks is if I learned an instrument myself. Now, it was either going to be guitar or the piano because they seemed the most practical. Yeah. And I started playing the guitar, just hurt my fingers, and I didn't want to play an instrument that fought back.
This is so true.
I played the piano, which is a very stationary instrument, and I can just sit there and either in a band like I'm going to tonight to Dep on Keys in Stratford, I can just sit there at the ground and not have to worry about like what people think of the lower half of me because they're only seeing the upper half and my weird facial expressions when I'm playing.
Practical.
But at the same time, piano is not a versatile instrument on your back. Like even when I'm carrying like my Yamahas or my Nords on my back or something like that, it's one of those where I'm like, God, I wish I could just learn guitar. Like, yeah, it would have fought back, but it would have found a home. Like it would have saved me about 9 kilograms on my back and like it has aged my back up by at least 30 years.
So there's pros and cons.
Absolutely.
To both of these things.
But I'm so at home playing the piano. I'm very happy sitting or standing, and goes without saying.
Yeah, well,
just flow. Generally.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy with the music that I'm coming out with it, and a lot more talented guitar players than me are playing in my band, and I'm very happy to have them along.
What's the weirdest face you pull then when you're playing the piano?
Oh, okay. So
can you actually picture it?
Yes, of course. I've got a video of it.
Okay.
I'll send this to you afterwards if we're doing like a video.
Yeah.
But I was playing Jodie Bryant's New Music Monday at the Ned, and I've played there 7 times solo as an artist and twice with a band who I'm playing for tonight called Hey Bailey, and I play keys on them and do backing vocals. And my face is just giving off like this disgruntled...
Is it bass face?
Yes, it is. It's giving off so much stank, like an unnecessary amount of stank. And I'm doing this like by default, and I'm not recognizing I do this until I put my phone in front of me and it captures all of like my face, and like it goes from like smiling harmonies and then like very big,
like drum and bass face.
Yeah, like very big, like piano. Scrunch face energy. Like you know when you hear like such a good riff in a crowd that one music person is standing there, not necessarily like clapping on everything, but just like respect. Yeah. Like me, but with swaying up and down next to the piano.
And you're playing something really emotive and
like,
higher up the keys.
Yeah, and even if it's like a solo or if it's just like pad chords, I'm like, yeah, that was a good pad chord. This really feels for me.
I am so good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send the video to you so we can have it as support.
It would be great to see.
It's 16 minutes of the weirdest facial expressions.
Wow, 16 minutes, that's a lot.
Well, it was a half an hour set and I realised that I needed to record myself halfway through, and we're going to edit it down for like content. And so if you see like a video on TikTok being like all of the faces I pulled while in London at the Net, then like that's where that's coming from.
Please send that to me. I just personally would like to see it as well. Made me laugh.
Just as like a personal. Yeah. This is funny.
Yeah. Essentially,
just like a you've been framed sort of.
Yeah, but I can't give you 250 quid. Sadly.
Oh no.
Sorry about that. Doesn't stretch that far, unfortunately, the budget at the moment. But in terms of then sort of performing on stage, aside from the facial expressions, how has that developed for you? And playing in venues like we're sitting in today, do you feel like you're sort of like tunnel vision when you're playing, or you can really sort of notice and feel the crowd when you are performing?
I've had to get through having that tunnel vision quite severely. Right. Like I remember my first open mic night that I did in my second year at uni, playing my own stuff, like very long hair, very focused on looking at the microphone. A oblivious of everything around me. And I'm so glad that I did it for experience. But looking back at the video, I'm like, oh God, this makes me look very unprepared. And I'm so glad that I've got to the stage where 7 years later, I can interact with a crowd and not look like an idiot and give every corner my view. If people are like heckling me like halfway through introducing a song, I'm like, okay, let's give it time and like have an interaction with them and not feel awkward through that interaction. So a lot of personal skills have come just by, even if a performance is going bad, just looking up and seeming like you're having a good time will help inform people a lot. Because even if it's like the best performance in the world and it looks like you're struggling at the piano, people will think like it's not. Yeah. It's not giving. No. Whereas if you're if it's giving a good energy and you're smiling and you're looking out of it, that's half the battle. Getting an audience to sympathise and empathise is half the battle. Telling the other side of the story and telling that music is another side.
And when you're writing, then do you have those people in your head, in your vision of like when you're manifesting how the song is going to be, or like maybe if you're writing in a studio, if you're writing in your bedroom, wherever it might be, are you just not even thinking about that? You're like, it'll be what it is.
I think it's a case of it will be what it will be, because I trust the people who are producing up my work at the moment to help see the vision. Obviously, I've got inspirations for tracks that like have directly inspired some of my work, and will inspire like the sonic elements of the track, but I'm not necessarily thinking of it as a performance on a particular stage. I'm thinking of it as I want to make as good a song as possible in that moment, if not for other people, for me to at least masquerade it as a therapy session. So yeah, I'm very selfish. Everything I do is for me. Cheer.
Thanks, guys. Keep listening. Follow me, subscribe.
Yes,
everything.
Please follow me. Do all the socials.
Everything, please. And on the writing front, I know it's been quite a very incredible experience for you to be part of, I think, the anti-social camp, which is this really great movement that has come out from the US, and there's lots of like writers. I think it's Dave from Glass Animals involved, and a couple other names that have gone through the music industry to where they are now. But like artists are also maybe, you know, at the stage of your career has been like writing for a few years and releasing for a few years. And then I know you've done like writing sessions am I right, in Stockholm?
In Stockholm, in Copenhagen, in Denmark, and for the Norwegian Eurovision delegation 2 years ago.
Wow. I mean, all of that together like sounds just golden.
It's an incredibly weird thing to put on a CV, and then be like, are you getting paid for this? And I'm like, sometimes if the track gets cut. Otherwise, it's just a holiday to Scandinavia with new people that I meet who then follow my socials. But it's every time I go out and write, it's an inspirational thing. And you're talking about anti-social camp. A load of people who were writing on that camp, Pink Pantheress, Jamie Cullen, Mae Stevens, Libby Whitehouse, who signed to Taliyard as well, who I depped on keys for on the Monday of anti-social camp. It was such an inspiration being part of that and taking it from the US and being the first cohort from the UK, because in one sense it's like, thank God finally someone sees that ability and what I've been waiting for, but also at the same time it's a very notable thing to then tell like your parents and be like, hey, these celebrities that you know from the radio are going to be at this camp, which I've also been selected to do. And it weirdly puts the writing of it all and the performing of it all in a new perspective, when you can relate it specifically to someone and then have it mean something and be like, oh my God, no way, I know them, instead of just this random group of people where like you have thrown 50 names of people I do not know who got famous off of TikTok and then they can't relate to it. But
it gratifies a little
exactly bit. I remember one performance I was asked to do the writers round at Antisocial Camp on day 2 of it, and if for people who didn't know, like a Nashville style writers round is where 4 or 5 people get in like a semicircle shape on a stage and play through songs individually, one after the other, tell their stories about their songs, and then like have people watching them from a stage, or maybe it's like a dinner and they're sort of hearing the music alongside, and a dinner and a show sort of thing.
Sounds pretty cool.
Which is really, really cool. And I got invited to be one of the first 5 on stage for the Nashville Writers Round for Antisocial Camp.
No pressure.
Exactly, yeah, absolutely not. And I played Go On Without Me. And it was so relieving to hear that people also felt the way that I felt when writing that and when I was performing that, because I feel like sometimes the songs are such a personal thing when you're writing them. And then for other people to think like, oh, I've experienced this level of like bullying and isolation that I describe in this song. I'm so happy that people can relate to it. And it ended up getting me a load of connections with BMG and Talyard that I'm still holding 5 months later because of that one performance, because they saw I was a good pianist. They saw that I was a good performer and a good writer as well. And they're like, we would like to work with you. Like I've been able to work with Meek, who's popping off at the moment in Berlin last month because of people who saw me from Talyard and was like, he plays good piano. We'll get him and play him more, get him to play more stuff. So you never know what those opportunities are going to come by, and to take those opportunities when you have them. But it's really relishing when all of the hard work and the groundwork that you've done actively pays off.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, and you can never see them, but you just got to go with the flow. But you've also grinded those opportunities for yourself, and don't be shy to jump in. Is that advice that you would give for the opportunities you've had in these first few years?
Don't be shy, go in with a smile, see what comes out. Because if you're going into anything that you do with the best intentions, sure, it could be something that you just don't work with them again, but that's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is you meet someone who becomes a friend for life, who becomes a colleague for life, and you end up working with them. Case in point, when I was first working with my producer Finn Connolly, who is uploading to Essex in Cambridgeshire with his band Forever, we met at a gig where I was stepping for Molly Hocking, who won the UK The Voice a few years ago. I was stepping on keys for her at O2 Islington. And we met because his band were on Next, and he had just got into producing and making it his full-time occupation. And I sent him the demo of 1-2 Summer Fling at the time, and he was like, I'd love to work on that with you. And so from 1-2 Summer Fling, we ended up doing Go On Without Me, which ended up doing All My Love, which ended up doing the next EP that we're working on. And I love that man to bits. He's such a good colleague, but also someone who we both decided we are going to take this opportunity that arises itself and has presented itself quite perfectly, and we're going to hold those horns and not let them go until we come out with something really, really good. And both of us are signed to Cartel now with our individual projects, and we're in a really good place going into 2026. And it's all because we met each other, and through our mutual connections, we were able to get something good. So go in with a smile. Who knows what might comes out? Might comes out? Good English, George. Well,
hopefully it'll be good. Yeah, a little bit. Yes, I got the order.
Yes, the functional order.
Yeah, the functional. We got there. I wanted to, before we talk about your new record coming out, which we're very excited to hear about. I just wanted to finally pick up on what you said about Finn and working with him and finding that person you trust to write with and bare your soul to and be vulnerable and also trust creatively that they're going to throw something out there you might not have thought about in your own mind musically. Finding someone like that, is it by chance? Is it by being open-minded? Or is it conscious of going, right, I'm going to, try and look in certain places on social media where people might be wanting to call out to work to each other, or you might bump into each other at a gig? How did you see all that coming together for people that might be wanting that other person to work with?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, and especially a good way to ground anyone going into the music industry to find their partner in crime that they're going to write with. I think especially if you're going into networking sessions with an objective to try and find someone to work with, then you're sort of going about it the wrong way. I think, like with any good connection, you should know them as friends first. You should know them as people who you want to hang out with more generally. And if you can then relate on a friendship level with someone who then may also be a musician who also has connections to X, Y, and Z, then you can say, hey, I've built up this good rapport with you as a person. Let's test that as colleagues and see whether that comes out. And with that relationship for Finn, we have been talking for the last 10 months, seeing how each other's projects were going, having beers with each other until we finally realized it's hey, you want to do this full time, I want to get these records out. It seems like we've got a mutually beneficial, you scratch my back, I scratch yours sort of thing. And that's a very good thing to take when you're not only coming from it from a place of mutually beneficial music making, but also you're coming to it from a sense of knowing them as friends, as people first. Because if you're knowing for them as just something, as a means for an end, once you get that means for an end, it's just feeling like you're then going to
kind of finished.
Yeah, you're just going to discard them, and you're not going to like really know them as people. And as an empath, like I want to know someone as a person. I want to know like what keeps them up at night, what is the main thing that drives them musically, and I want to make sure that I'm working towards their goals as well as they're working towards mine. And finding that person that you really, really connect with on a friendship level, knowing them as people first before musicians, and then the music will better flow, because then you've got more of a grounding to be like, hey, actually I don't like that sound, could we think about it this way? And then you can sort out disagreements with each other a lot better, instead of coming from a point of, oh, I'm clearly working for you to get this song cut by, I don't know, Universal. You're just a means to the end of my 10 grand, like my buyout fee. It's like, that's not how it should be.
It sounds like you've seen or heard about this kind of...
Oh, honey, you have no idea.
Without naming names.
Yeah, where do we begin? There were situations when I was like writing for people where they just... It was clearly like a writing camp, but we didn't really know each other very well. And they thought that they had like more ownership of a track than they actually did, when they were like, in fact, hey, we're 4 people working on it equally. We all did equal things. Why do you get 50% of it and we all get like 15? So without naming names, but also like know them as friendship people. Know them as friends first. Know them on a fundamentally human level before you make something that can connect with other people as well.
You put about so what keeps you up at night? What keeps you up at night?
Many things. The dark, the light, spiders, a sudden and mysterious lack of spiders. But the thing that sometimes keeps me up at night is wanting this all to work out. And I've obviously kind of contradicted myself in saying that, like, I want this to work out, but also don't go into it thinking it will work out. Like, I feel like I have put so much work into something, and I just want people to recognize that for stories to be told from areas of the country, from different musical genres, from different people out there that don't necessarily fit the pop norm, that a load of people are really grinding hard to make other people happy. Give them a chance. Case in point for Meek, when we were talking about her earlier, she had been writing for the last 10 years before she had her EP coming out, which has just come out recently now with Fabulous, and she's got loads of sync stuff from it, has got tens of millions of streams, but only because she put in the groundwork. And she was just talking to Jodie Bryan on a podcast how she felt like at 32 she felt washed out, and she felt like she started in the music industry late. No, you were just from a background where people didn't feel like stories could come out of there, but in fact they do. So my fear is not that it will work itself out, but the fact that whether the right people to get me to where I want to be, or have the goals to, will ever see it. And I know I'm still young. I'm 27 as of the time that we're recording this. If I look back in 30 years, that's an existential dread waiting to happen. But
it's on here forever.
Oh no. But I've still got time. And the thing that keeps me up at night is not whether that time will run out, but whether I will make the most of that time.
So how does that mentality fit in with your next record that you're putting out?
I have worked so hard over the last 7 years to get this EP out. The first track of it is called 7 Years in the Making. I'm going to spoil it very quickly.
Great.
The intro track is called 7 Years in the Making because the musical inspirations from it have been since 2019, from wanting to do an EP with my university's record label, to being bullied in COVID in 2020, to being poor during my master's in 2021, to having to restart again doing life in 2022, depping on keys for other people, but wanting my own music to shine in 2023, and then finally getting an avenue. All of those thoughts and feelings culminating itself into one collective record where I don't want to be a person who is known for their connection to others. I want to be known as George Bone. I want to be the Yes Man no more. Hence the title of the EP being The Yes Man, which is what it's always wanted to be for the last 7 years, and a good creative decision that I've stuck by.
Right. And you've said no a little bit more then, and like stuck to your guns, or you've known what's going to be valuable to you right now without, it seeming, I don't know, ungrateful or those kind of things.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know what it's sounding like, and I'm very assured in the sound that it is. But that's only possible through the guidance of incredible incredible people along this journey who have supported me in that journey of discovery, not only through the work that you are going to hear in the record, but through myself as a person. The Wrong Person, which is the first song coming out and will be out by the time that this record comes out, was written in 2023 in the British Library. The next song, Floating Away, which is a
pretty cool place to write songs.
It's such a fun place. The next song was written in January of 2023 in a writing room with a musical theatre major who I met at Durham, and a lot of them were influenced. A lot of the other songs were influenced by events over the last 7 years that I've had to sort of take, recompile, and put in a music-friendly package. And I hope that I've succeeded in making people feel that has been the goal and that is something that has been accomplished through the music.
How much does your artwork come into things? Because I feel like the blessing you have to grow the tash that you have is honestly, it's a gift.
So I'll tell you a story about this tash. I started growing out a very big beard, like after I had a breakup in February of 2022 that, like, I genuinely, not meaning this hyperbolically, rocked me to my core. And I felt very insular. I felt very lost. I didn't feel like I had a lot of friends to support me at that time. And I grew a massive beard to act as like some sort of covering. Also, I was very ashamed of my double chins at the time. And so since growing that, since going to try and make myself a bit better than I was back then in the start of 2024, which was the really big start of like my health journey, my musical journey as well. I used my beard as like a defense mechanism for myself, to be like, no one can really see the face behind us. No one can see behind the mask. Oh my God. But like, I felt in June of 2024, when a lot of releases were coming out, that I felt like I needed to, if people were really going to listen to me, they really needed to know like the person underneath. But I kept the tash, just because like it's a big power move, and it's this has been here for like the last 6,
you feel
7
like a
years.
mogul.
What was that? Sorry?
You feel like a mogul.
Absolutely. And like, does it add to the big personality? Hell yes. Yeah. Does it make me more unique as an artist? Hell yeah. Is it doing any good for the complexion of my face or just my moisturizing routine?
Jury's out.
Probably not. But it's thank you.
I just wanted to comment
genuinely,
on it.
No one has ever complimented me on my tash before.
I can't do anything. It's just stubble. So I
but still,
I needed to take the opportunity.
5 o'clock shadow is still like a really, really good look. Like at least it's like something there as well. Like it's the attempt at trying, and also at the same time, I've shaved off the beard because it was very, very patchy. It was like big energy throughout my chin, and then very patchy on the cheeks, and like, it was very clear that it was not getting any better.
It's much simpler now.
Absolutely, so much more simpler. I can feel my face again and be like, oh, skin. But yeah, no one has ever complimented me on my tash in a podcast before. So
there you are. It's a first for everything.
There's always time.
So obviously very excited about the EP that is out and going forward. And it's been a real joy and a privilege to like hear that discovery and journey you've been on. And the one thing that strikes me, and I mean this in the best way possible, is that some artists you might meet or you talk to that you might meet in music is, they're very happy to go with the flow. They're very happy to like, very relaxed with it. And I'm not saying that you're not, but like, you seem so sure about like how it feels right now as a project, but what you want to convey as an artist. And like, that certainty, does that root from doing the legwork in a certain way? Does that has it just come naturally and innately? Because I think for artists to hear that psychology, there'd be many artists maybe listening where they feel like they've got their sound down, but then still have a little bit of a doubt in their mind. Maybe I'm assuming a lot of how you feel.
I think that's a very good point to make. And I've had this like genuinely said to me before, like I've had people like especially like at Radio Essex as well, who I've talked to. I had an interview with Akila on Radio Essex in, I think it was September last year, and she said almost the exact same thing, and it came to me as a bit of a shock, really, because sometimes I don't know myself, and I mean that in the best possible way. But like, certainty breeds from uncertainty, and if you're coming from a place where you know what you're going to be from the very start, like I said, with networking and stuff, you're not really doing it right because you've not had that journey of discovery. You've not had that epiphany to decide who you really are. But it's only when you like really know who you are psychologically and who you're not only friendly with yourself with, but who you feel like this is the me that I want to be. It's so emancipating. It's so emancipating. And that may not come for a year, 2 years, 5 years, but I know that I have been different as a person. I know that I've been more eccentric in my friendship groups. I know that no on a serious note, I know like a lot of my friends in primary school and secondary school wanted to be bank tellers, wanted to be engineers, wanted to be more practical stuff, and I knew I wanted to do the arts from a very early age. And I knew that I got relentlessly bullied through primary school, through secondary school, and then through university for wanting to pursue what I was passionate about so badly. But all that's done is made me stronger. All that's done is made me more sure that this is what my calling is, because people wouldn't want to put you down if they didn't think you'd had a chance.
Yeah.
And even talking to you right now, even knowing the things that I have in my future, although sometimes it's uncertain, I know I've got a chance. And sometimes with those chances, you've just got to grab them, run to the hills and don't stop until you get there. And it's like, weirdly saying it out loud is kind of very emotional.
I was going to say, yeah.
But also, like, as I said to you, like, I've been singing for the last 5 years. I'm 27 now. I know I've been in the arts for the last 22 years, and I've never felt more at home than in a choir, in a writing room. Whenever I've tried to get a real job in the real world, I'm inserting air quotes here for people who are just audio listening. It's felt so wrong, and I felt so out of place. I remember in some interview feedback that I got from a job in February of 2024. It was from the CEO of the company themselves. I got to the last stages of interviews and I was showing how passionate I was in the interview. And they said in feedback that I was, quote, full on, intense, overwhelming, and that's why no one wanted to work with me.
Right.
And that was such a gut punch, because that's who I was. That's who I'd only ever grown up in being. That's all I'd ever wanted, to look in the mirror and see the artist that I'd wanted to be, and someone who tells stories for a living, and to be called that by someone who, not only who I wanted to go into employment with, but someone who, for starters, but also who I admired as a person as well, was like really shocking. But I know that those are just comments in the wind really. Again, the people who want to put you down are the people who know you're going to make it the most. And without constructive criticism, the world will be a lot darker of a place. And I'd always want to make sure that whoever I'm giving constructive criticism to and who I'm receiving it from, it's always coming from like a genuine place. But I'm not going to stop until I have those stories to tell, until I've told those stories. And if they resonate with people, even with the mum of the friend who I was talking to you about, that makes me so much more encouraged to go on this journey in the first place. Anyway, that was the emotional part of the TED Talk.
And finally, to finish the Breakthrough Music Podcast TED Talk, if you want to frame it like that, you must be so excited to, I feel like, ride this wave
ecstatic
in this year that we're in at the moment. And it sounds like you're very excited for the things you know are coming, but also that might not be coming.
The things you know to be true are the only things that you can hold on to, really. Like, I was talking to someone literally on the train today about like doing some marketing and forced creativity, and telling them that the only things that you can work with at the moment are the things that are on the table.
You're talking to a stranger, sorry, by the way.
No. One of my... I wish I had the courage to talk to someone with a bike and be like...
Let's talk marketing, everyone.
Let's talk forced creativity. But no, one of my friends in a little group chat of musicians who I know and who I work with, we were talking about this, and it was an element of like, you need to work with what you're given, but what you're given will lead you to a bigger table from which to eat from. And as long as you work with the people who you know are great to work with and who help you along the way and who are passionate along with it too, it doesn't matter about the resources really. There's a load of things out there for free that can help you on your journey. Just take advantage of those things that are free. Know that you're sometimes need help and get help where you can, but also know that the art is the good thing that's coming out of it. And to go back to the starting point of that, I'm ecstatic about the year that is to come and the countdown of the next, as we're recording, 26 weeks or so until an EP headlines show in Paper Dress Vintage and Hackney, and until the EP comes out fully itself. World events are definitely doing their best to cripple that excitement, but also at the same time, on just a purely musical point, I couldn't be more excited about the people I'm working with and about this as the project. Well,
we're very, very excited to see where it goes, and it's been so great to get a dive into your mind of how you see it all play out, and of course makes you the artist that you've become. George, thank you so much for coming on Breakthrough, man.
No worries, an absolute pleasure.